What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Exit Light. Back once again with the boys, Zach Ellis, Colin Rudis, ZDG. I'm Jackson Tate. It's about to be football season in Blacksburg, and we're excited to break it all down and bring, like the Terror Dome back to you guys. This season's going to be one for the books. We're excited about it. It's been, a long summer. We've only had a couple of episodes in the last, couple months just because of, people being in different places and being really busy throughout the summer. Also, it's just kind of a slow time for Virginia Tech sports. But in the meantime, we've had a lot of fun coming out with the new college football game, College Football 25. We decided we were going to take it upon ourselves to start a little bit of a league. So we've spent the last month and a half of planning a league, setting up. I've been making graphics. We've been posting on social media, and just over the past couple of weeks, we've been playing games on where some of us have PlayStation, some of us have Xbox, playing games against each other. We have 32 people, 4 divisions of 8 teams. We have a 10-game schedule. Isaac, who produces the magic behind the scenes for this, kind of came up with the a ranking system and a spreadsheet to help us schedule. We have an RPI formula, strength of schedule, a bunch of random crazy stuff, and we've been having fun. I think everybody on this podcast lost their week 1 game except for Zach Ellis, who Jesus blessed him in the last couple seconds of his game. And we're currently, me and Colin play each other this week. ZDG is going to lose 2 games in a row. And I think Isaac actually is 2-0 on the season to start. So in the meantime, look out for us on social media. Look out for us on YouTube. We'll have games streamed. Some of us will have Twitch. Every once in a while, I'll try to throw a Twitch link in the on the Instagram story. But just keep an eye out. It's eye out for it. It's been fun until we get back to Blacksburg, and Zach, I know you guys are excited to get back to Blacksburg here shortly.
Yeah, we're all super excited. First week we're back. We got football that weekend. And I know all of us here, except for the one who's not 21, are all going to be in Vanderbilt or in Nashville for the Vanderbilt game. I know we're all super excited for that. See, the first game of the year, there's been so much hype in the off season. So many people saying that I know we're not ranked, but we will be soon. And we're all super excited for that game. So, DeGrowie, you wanna start us off with your first talking point here?
Yeah, I know just like you, us, we're excited to move back into Blacksburg. The summer went by really fast, and in a sense that kind of sucks, but at the same time it means that we're just going back to Blacksburg in a couple weeks from now, so get to go back and see everybody. And soon after that, you guys, Jackson will be coming to town with this big old tailgate, and we'll have I don't know, like, what do you think, Jackson? Probably over 75 people there this year, and be having a great old time every weekend. So yeah, definitely excited for it.
Yeah, ZDG, we are definitely excited to get back up to Blacksburg here shortly. It won't be too long till Colin and I are on the road from Chesapeake and now Moyock, to get back up to tailgate season, to football season. We're super excited for our tailgates for sure, but football season even more. It feels like it's 70 to 100 people every time. We're excited to have everybody there. Get a little bit drunk on a Saturday morning. We're excited for it. The Bold Rocks will be absolutely flowing. My sister turns 21 shortly into the season. We're gonna have a couple kegs. We're gonna have some fun. But that's besides the point. We're here to talk about football season. Football season is the name of the game, and we're excited for it. We think we're gonna be pretty good this year. And we're ready to talk about it. And that's what's gonna be here for the next couple weeks. So, Ellis, you're in charge of this. You're in charge of the recap. You got the recap from 2023, so go ahead.
Coming off a 7-6 2023, up and down season. Started with Grant, the quarterback, ended up with Kyron, and what we now know is our future. Last year, big loss without Ali. Got him back this year, and there is so much hype around this program. Last year, you lose those games that you really shouldn't lose. You lose to Rutgers, you lose to Marshall. Those are games that this year we're going to have to win. And, if we want to be talked about as some of the big boys in football again, then we can't go in tired for those games. We can't be, we're playing Rutgers. We're playing Marshall. That's not exciting. No, we got to go in there, got to kick butt and lock in.
So the big thing here is that you're returning most of your production from 2023. A team that that undoubtedly, like, there is no doubt about it, finished amongst the strongest in the FBS, in the ACC. The second half of the season, we played as championship contenders as opposed to the first half. Once the team gelled, we started putting up 400 yards, 350 yards per game, and that will win you football games. The defense stepped up. We started playing better defense. Both sides of the ball just became spectacular to watch. The team improved, and this is where ZDG is going to hit it home. ZDG is our football guru. He knows everything about rosters and the stats. ZDG, what do you think the most important additions are to this team? And then what do you think? How do you think we improved and on both sides of the ball?
Yeah, so when you start to see them play against teams like Elville at the end of the year, they ran the ball down our throats. There's no question there. And the reason they had done that was you saw last year a bunch of linebackers being rotated out. Brian talked about that at the end of the year. That was a big hole in their defense. And our defensive tackles played well against teams like Syracuse, Pitt, and a few others. But when you played against teams with the better offensive lines, you also saw that the tackles groups kind of weren't able to plug those A and B gaps. And what they have done this year is they've brought in Sam Brumfield from Middle Tennessee State. He's going to look to be the new Mike linebacker. He's going to be a stud. I think Pry's going to kind of try to mold him into, maybe not Micah Parsons, but somebody who could be of his caliber. And I think you get a lot of progress with him. And the big one for me was Anais Peoples from Duke. He's the highest rated PFF defensive tackle in the ACC that's returning this year. He's going to make a difference. I mean, he had 43 tackles, 8.5 tackles for losses, 5 sacks, 2 pass breakups, 6 quarterback pressures, and I mean the list just goes on. He's a stud. He's going to plug that gap. And you also got Perry from Alabama, who didn't really play a lot, but he was a freshman last year. And Pry and his staff have a good reputation of taking these players who may have come from a smaller school with a bigger role or a bigger school with a smaller role, and they've really gotten the production they've needed out of him. So all these guys that they've added, especially with the defensive tackle group, it's just going to combine with APR and maybe the likes of Josh Fuga in some examples, and it's just going to make that group even better. So, I mean, everybody talks about the bad boys on offense. Well, you kind of got bad boys on defense as well. I mean, this group, when you look at it, and after, I don't know, a couple of weeks of just being on the field together, it's going to be one of the best in the ACC, and I think that that's really going to take this defense up a notch. And I know Zach's going to hit on the pass defense because that has been honestly nothing short of stellar. Honestly, the last 2 years, it's really been a strength. So Zach, do you want to kind of talk about that with how that's going to tie into the run defense this year?
The pass defense hasn't been the problem these last couple of years. It's been teams have just run all over us. And at that point, our corners have to cheat and help for the run, and they get beat over the top. But last year, I want to say we were top 10 in passing yards against. We were locked down. And the big piece of that is Mansour Delane and Dorian Strong. Those are the 2 stud corners. They are locked down. I want to say Dorian, I think he got second team last year all defense, and he had better stats than both the guys who were ahead of him for first team. So he is the biggest talking point for the secondary. Delane's been kind of swept under the rug because Strong's gotten all that talk. And so I think Delane, he's one of my favorite players. He missed out on his younger brother, but he's a dog. And the underrated guys are going to be the big people that step up this year. And I think that's Dante Lovett and Mose Phillips. Mose Phillips, we kind of watched him a little bit last year, and he is this hard-hitting safety that will knock your teeth out. He plays old school football. He's going to hit hard, and he's going to be people that you watch Virginia Tech, you see those hits, and you get reminded of Cam Chancellor and all those bad boys. And then Dante Lovett, he didn't get to see the field much last year, but when he did, he made a name for himself. And he's one of those guys where his mom, super active on social media, one of those people you just fall in love with. So I think he is going to be our best kept secret on defense because he's going to get the opportunity this year, and he is going to ball out.
All right, so first off, I just want to say somebody that ZDG forgot about. That's Kamari Copeland. He's a JUCO product, but, ZDG being from the 804, they love to hate us in the 757. Copeland's from the 757, so of course he's not going to shout him out. But the one guy that I'm excited for, hopefully gets his fair share of playing time, is Zay Turner Bradshaw. And we saw some big plays out of him last year, jet sweeps and reverses and stuff. And I think it was NC State. He had like a 50-40 yard touchdown. And I'm excited to see if he gets his slot role to see what he can do.
It's interesting that you're talking about wide receivers. It's we're basically returning everybody. I mean, we are returning everybody, and we're adding very big threats to the fold. Talk about Brody Adams, Chance Wiggins. Zay Turner Bradshaw didn't really play much last season, but he's going to be in the mix where it's going to be spectacular. Um, I guess you kind of hit a little bit on Ollie coming back, but you talk about him returning, and it's almost like he's not really returning production because he played one game in 2 plays, and it's going to be really cool to see. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to like Twitter and like Tech Media Day that happened yesterday or today, and they're talking about how Ollie's down like 30 pounds compared to last season, and he's saying he feels just so much faster and just so much more explosive, and it's just like, man, he had one of the best games we've seen from a wide receiver in a long time, where he had 2 touchdowns and probably should have had 4 against ODU to open the season last year, and then got hurt in the second play. If that's how good he can be with 30 extra pounds, um, it's just, I can't even imagine what he's going to be like this season. But I wanted to transfer into somebody that I'm surprised that you guys did not talk about, and that's Bashal Tutin. I feel like he's the most, I don't want to say disrespected, because everybody knows that that the Tutin train is on the rails, but people are talking about the wide receivers. They're talking about the defense. They're talking about Kyron Drones. They aren't talking about my boy Bashal, who literally is the bread and butter for the offense. When he's going, things work so much better than we saw against Purdue and Marshall and Rutgers. You see him. He's capable as a short pass check down back. He's also capable busting through holes. You see him returning kicks. You talk about somebody who's gonna be a huge key to the puzzle. I almost just laugh at the amount of at the lack of hype that Bashal Tutin is receiving for just this upcoming season. Um, I don't know if you guys have any other important things that you guys are looking forward to here.
Yeah, I got one thing going off what Colin brought up. When you think of Virginia Tech traditionally, you really don't think of wide receivers. And I think our wide receiver room is one of the top in the country. And this is definitely one of the most excited I've ever been. Thinking back, had Isaiah Ford, Cam Phillips, guys like that. But you haven't had a room that is this full, I don't think ever. Because you think, we know what we have with Jalen Lane. He's going to burn you. You know what we have with Daquan Felton. He's going to beat you over the top. We saw one game from Ollie. You got Gosnell. You got Holloway if he's healthy. You got the 2 freshmen coming in, Brody, Chance Wiggins. Then you got the guys that haven't really played much, but are going to be dogs when they do, especially Aiden Green. This guy's gotten so much hype in camp. I know,
Dude, I
y'all know
cannot
on
believe I
Twitter,
forgot Aiden Green after the bowl game. Oh my
he
gosh.
is going to be a dog. And he is the guy I'm most excited to see on offense. But the problem is, to get him on the field, you got to take one of those guys off. So we are never going to be in a situation where we're having trouble, unless injuries, which hopefully not. But, a guy gets gas for a play, you bring on Aiden Green. You bring on, I think, former 4-star Chance Fitzgerald out of Tennessee, who we didn't even mention at all. So we have guys that are going to fill every single gap. We are never going to have a problem with receivers this year. And, you got Kyron throwing him the rock. You know what we have with the running game. Our offense is exciting, and I can't wait to go out there and watch it.
Yeah, so we're trying to kind of hit on things that we obviously have heard all the hype. We're trying to hit on things that maybe we don't talk about as much. The one thing that I was noticing just listen to media day and listen to just sports coverage, but also thinking about like how are we going to improve last season? Like, what were the gaps that we had at the end of last season that we need to improve on in order to play better? And I mean, I feel like immediately you think about run defense. I think about run defense, you think about offensive line. I would say those are probably the two biggest gaps. You need Parker Clements to actually play his position, and you need the linebackers and defensive tackles to really step up and be able to stop the run, especially up the middle. I feel like we were decent. Anything runs left or right. Our cornerbacks are doing a great job, but up the middle, runs up the middle. Um, Brent Pry said, that Mike and Will linebackers are really stepping up this fall, this fall. He said there's 5 Mike and Will linebackers that are battling for the 4 spots in the 2 deep. They're saying Sam Brumfield, who came from MTSU, Jade Keller, Kelly Lawson, who is he has a freak body. He could be a defensive end. He could be a safety. He could be a cornerback. He could be
He's
everything.
a freak of
Yeah,
nature.
he's very, very just lengthy. Jade McDonald and Caleb Woodson. I feel like that's encouraging because you need those positions to step up, and that was always the thing that was. It was not that we were ever bad in those situations. Kelly has been good for the last couple seasons, but it seems to me like we just haven't had any depth there, and I feel like we're finally starting to get to that point. Um, I do also want to hit a little bit on Kyron. I feel like Kyron gets a lot of the hype. People are considering him as like a dark horse Heisman favorite, potential ACC player of the year. We don't talk much about like him training this offseason. He trained with Shador Sanders, Cam Ward from Miami. Not only has he gotten a bunch of the hype, he has also done a lot of the work, and that's what they've said from practice, that Kyron's deep ball accuracy is better. He's throwing the ball better, and we already know that he just runs over people when he runs the ball. Virginia Tech is built on these dual threat quarterbacks. If you have a quarterback that can do everything, it's just like when Hendon Hooker came in 2019. It's just like what you saw in glimpses with Burmeister, Tyrod Taylor, Michael Vick. You've seen it happen. You've seen Logan Thomas when he was mobile. You saw how good we were. Gerard Evans. It is literally the foundation of what Virginia Tech can be when you have that type of quarterback. And it's why everybody was ticked off when they saw Ryan Willis and Grant Wells and God knows who playing quarterback. There's a lot to be excited about, and it's more than just the media hype. It's real. It's real, and Kyron can be the answer. But like we've said, there's so many different aspects and different puzzle pieces to all of this hype.
Jackson, it's interesting that you bring up the quarterbacks to end your point, because there's something that we were talking about before we started recording that seems a little intriguing to me, and that's that there's been rumors that Tyler Bowen has been hinting at using a 2-quarterback system at times throughout the season, which the second quarterback, that'll be Colin Schlee, who is a transfer from UCLA. Not going to lie, have no idea what the dude's got. I haven't looked into like any highlights or anything from him. But that seems like something that could potentially go a little crazy.
Yeah, quick shout out. You're talking about Schlee being the second option. That's mostly just because Pop Watson's been kind of battling a little bit of an injury through camp. Now that I'm doing my research on it, I kind of fully expect Pop to also be that second option. And it's also it's a double-edged sword, because they could have Colin Schlee, who is known for kind of being a Burmeister type quarterback where he throws the ball, he has that white boy speed. But you also have Pop Watson, who you've seen how fast he is. He's insanely quick. If you put 2 options on the field, you saw when they against Syracuse last year when they started implementing a little bit of trick plays, they really had the defense on their heels most of the night for the rest of the night. It opens doors, and Colin brings up an awesome point to how intriguing it is, but also how beneficial it is to have those options. Because in 2022, we had Grant Wells, and Grant Wells sucked, and that's basically it. He had one good game all year, and that's it. So it's exciting.
Yeah, so Ellis, you perfectly hit it, and this is where I was gonna kind of take us to next was some really big keys to this season. And I could tell you that it's gonna obviously, involve everybody. You want everybody to stay healthy. Obviously you want Jennings to torch everybody and you want Bayshall to get 8 yards a carry. But I think what's gonna come more to on the offensive side of the ball at least is you just listed out, I don't know, 7 wide receiver options, and you touched on Tootin as well, Jackson. And you and Rudy also mentioned Kyron Drones in the quarterback system. Well, the quarterbacks can run just as much as Tootin, and that was a part last year. So I would ask you to draw me up a defense that could consistently stop all three of those threats, and I'm not really sure there is really an answer to that. So I guess one of the big keys would be how creative can Tyler Bowen get? Because what I'm looking from Tyler Bowen this year is obviously, if the run's working, like, keep going and, throw some wrinkles in some of those passes. But the Syracuse game last year where Malachi Thomas threw that touchdown over the top because Syracuse was just fighting on the outside runs because it was gashing them. We got to see more of that this year. Let's not just stick to RPO slant over the middle or just, a basic, run outside. Let's see if we can get creative. And I think that the offense is so loaded that if Tyler Bowen can just go into his bag, but also, just do what's going to get us those wins, I think that's going to be a bigger key than, whatever receiver combination you put out there.
And you want to talk about defenses trying to stop the run game? Well, good luck because Kyron Jones' arm should be sponsored by NASA because that thing's a damn rocket launcher.
It's talk about well, it's actually crazy. I feel like Kyron can throw the ball just about anywhere. I don't think I've seen him. You see him obviously on the deep balls. You've seen throws to Daquan, the drone strikes. You think about like the Gosnell touchdown against UVA. That really wasn't that long of a throw. That was like a 15-yard out route that he put in the breadbasket. Ended up being a touchdown on fourth down. Kyron has the arm to make those plays, and if the pocket's collapsing, he's just going to take off and he's going to run over people. He will put them in the ground. They will be divots in Lane Stadium. It'll be like that girl that Georgia crossed up last basketball season. There, she put a crater in the floor. We're gonna have holes in Lane. There's gonna be twisted ankles because Kyron planted Purdue's guy in the ground. So like he did last year. So I was gonna talk very quickly just kind of piggybacking onto what ZDG said about having the options in your game plan and having the options in your arsenal to do special things, but also not out game planning yourself. And I feel like we've seen that happen every once. We saw it happen with Fuente all the time where we had the talent on the field, but we were doing dumb shit. Oh, gobble noises. Um, and you saw it with Cornelson and just that staff just absolutely doing stupid stuff with jet sweeps and just dumb plays. You'd have Khalil Herbert having great games, and they just stop letting him run. And you're up against UVA late, and you decide you're gonna put a second quarterback in to run into the back of your lineman and get spun around like a freaking tornado. It's the stupidest stuff I've ever seen. You have to capitalize on the opportunity that you have at hand, where you have Ollie Jennings, you have Daquan Felton, you have Gosnell, Tucker Holloway, Aiden Green, Bashal Tootin, Kyron Jones, all these players rotating in. You have an offensive line that is getting better day by day. You have a defense that is, they're gelling and they're playing really good defense. You can't squander that opportunity by out game planning yourself and trying to do too much. Keep it simple. Be smart. Don't outplay yourself. Throw in those wrinkles when you have the opportunity to throw in those wrinkles, but don't try to get cute. I feel like for me that's the big thing is take the opportunity for what it is and not try to make it more than what it is because you have talent, but you have to execute. You still have to execute, or else it's just going to be talent on the field that's just walking around in circles. So
Yeah, and I mean, if that involves using the NASA rocket launcher that Rudy had just mentioned, then we'll take those one play touchdown series all day. I know one of my keys last year that I talked to different people about was Kyron Jones's deep ball accuracy, and to hear that, well, obviously he has been working on that, but I think that that's also going to be a key for his play. So as long as he keeps hitting those deep bombs, then, I mean, wrinkles don't even have to come into play because there's Jennings 80 yards downfield.
So there's one point that kind of relates to yours, Jackson, and I'll use this to swing into our next topping point. Is I'm really curious to see what happens when something doesn't go right. We've had so much offseason hype. Everyone's talking about, oh, Virginia Tech's dark horse, their sleeper team. All this hype is going in. So when we're in a close game and when something's not going right, I want to see how we bounce back and our mentality for that. Like, say, for example, Kyron throws a couple picks. How are we going to recover? How's their mentality going to be? Are they going to shake it off? Or are they going to go down in the dumps like kind of how we've been the past couple years? So I'm really curious to see when we have a tight game, how do we come back and fight through it instead of just give up? Which going into that, what is one game this year that y'all are really looking at as like an under the radar game for whatever reason you want it to be?
Unfortunately, you gotta say ODU because they're freaking 0-2 there. But hopefully, this is the year that they can just go lay it on them because it'll be my third time seeing Tech play at ODU. And the other 2 times haven't been very fun.
Dude, I am glad I'm not able to go to that game because I've never been more mad at life, other people. Like I was close to swinging that day because the ODU fans, they're rude. They're crazy too. Like they're ignorant into the point where they don't know football. They just know beating Tech. Like that's all they care about. They just want to be better than Virginia Tech, and they're not.
It's
They're not.
year.
What?
It's their natural.
Exactly. They're playing their Super Bowl against us, and they're literally all they care about is beating Virginia Tech and then going to burn some couches in the streets. So, um, I I'm gonna say a different game in a second once Ellis and ZDG go, but ODU scares me. But I'm hoping we put like 90 up.
So I'm glad you mentioned ODU because I want to know why the we are still playing at Old Dominion. You never see these big Power 5 schools go play at small stadiums. Clemson plays Citadel this year. They don't go play at Citadel. When Michigan played App State, they don't go play at App State. They play at their school. There is no point for us to go give them money to play at their school. Like it's just stupid and it makes no logical sense. You're not getting money from it. And you're playing at a small stadium in Norfolk, Virginia. That is not a good area. We had stuff stolen last time we played there. Why are we still playing?
Got stuck in an elevator.
Our coaches got stuck in an elevator, delayed the game. Classic meme that always pops up on Twitter. Why are we still playing there?
Well, I don't know why we're still playing there, but I think that, the culture definitely changes this year. I think all of that juju, everybody that keeps putting on, they'll choke it every year they play there. I don't see that happening this year. I do not think ODU is going to have remotely a chance. I think remotely the only reason that game was close last year was because Zach's favorite chef was quarterback week 1 last year. So thank you for that, Mr. Ellis. And I guess kind of on a scheduling game related note that you would kind of mention, why can't they just sub this game for like JMU or something, bro? Like I want to establish it.
Even that
there
you don't want to go
sucks.
play. You don't want to go play at JMU.
I don't want to play JMU in general right now, truthfully.
Look,
I know that's a little bit of like I know might be a soft take, but like
I'm not ready for that.
all these even the SEC schools have these games where they're playing cupcakes late in the season. Well, we don't have the opportunity to play cupcakes late in the season because the ACC plays a continuous schedule. But granted, we don't have we're like one of 5 teams in the FBS that aren't playing an FCS team this year. We play Marshall. we play ODU, so we're playing two teams. We're playing two, um, group of 5 teams.
You might as well include Vanderbilt in that.
And you might as well include Vanderbilt, and you could in a way include Rutgers, because Rutgers has been a conversation with Vandy at the same time. I think we inarguably agree that Rutgers is at least 3 levels better than Vandy. But I don't know. My point is, if we're talking about like, do we want to would we rather play JMU instead of ODU? Sure, because it's a better game. Sure, because we should play them in Blacksburg. We should never, for the rest of our existence, if we're trying to go be an SEC school, Big Ten school, we're trying to be into a conference that is important. We should never play a non-Power 4 school on the road. Never. That's it. No and ifs or buts. It's the letter of the law. No more. I genuinely thought we were going to cancel the ODU series. I can't imagine that series in its like the way it's written continues after this year where we're going home and away. But even then, we've had some BS series where we're playing ECU in Greensville or Greenville or
And we
whatever.
lost.
We lost once. But I saw him put up 60 something straight points one time.
I watched him lose in the rain.
But
That sucked.
I mean, why are we playing at Marshall? I understand Marshall. That game at Marshall was because they played us in 2018 when we needed an extra game. I'll excuse it because that's why we ended up being bowl eligible that year. But why are we playing Norfolk? Why are we playing ODU 3 times? It's stupid. It's dumb. Why are we playing at Liberty? We played at Liberty. That's dumb. Dumb. We beat them. That was funny, but dumb. Yeah, L's down. All right. Ellis.
Sorry,
Okay,
but Ellis, to get on your point about your under the radar game, I guess mine personally, I would have to defer to, in terms of like mentality and seeing how the players, take the season as it goes. I'll have to point to when we travel from South Florida all the way to China to play Sanford in California. I mean, what the hell are we doing? Atlantic Conference, bro. It's what a joke. What a joke, bro. So we'll go over there. We'll see how the team handles travel, and after smoking Miami, and we'll see how they carry that over there, and that's going to be my game that I'm looking for personally. Am I afraid of it? No, but I think that's going to be an aspect they're going to have to get used to because we have a lot of young players that are going to be traveling across the country because anybody can get added to anywhere they want. So
it's 100% a trap game. Like you're 100% correct on that. Especially given the fact that there's a really strong possibility us and Miami are both ranked in the top 20 going into that matchup on a Friday night primetime game. It's going to be on national television. People are going to pay attention because it's Virginia Tech. It's Miami. Let's say we go into South Florida. We beat Miami. We're ranked in the top 12, 15 teams in the country. The hype train is real, and we have to travel all the way across the country to Palo Alto to play a team with no fans.
Well, actually, there will be fans, but it'll just be us because we actually travel.
Well, I have no intentions of going to California. I don't have that money, especially when I'm coming to Blacksburg every weekend.
I have money for that.
No, I thought you were still on the Miami point. I thought you were still on the Miami point.
No,
because you said no fans.
Oh, fair enough. I understand that you heard no fans and you automatically think Miami. Fair point. I probably would have thrown in Pittsburgh, maybe Virginia. But nonetheless, we're talking about Stanford. You're right. It's a trap game. And if you go all the way to California and you're riding the high of beating a ranked team on the road with the national hype, it might be an issue. It truthfully, and you have it's like when like Virginia Tech plays Boston College in men's basketball. Like it always seems like Boston College comes directly after a big game where you get a big win. You get. I'm pretty sure 2020, with the year we won the ACC championship in men's, we played Boston College right after we beat Notre Dame for their first ACC win in a big game. Come from behind, lose to Boston College. We beat Virginia here in Blacksburg, storm the court. Next game, we lay an egg against Boston College. It's like what happens when we play Boston College. It's a energy black hole. There's no energy there. There's no fans. People don't care. People care more about studying after the game than they do about actually being, at the football game and seeing their team do good because their team's not good. It's a really fair point that's a trap game. I want to talk a little bit about a game that's not necessarily um, against a bad team, but it's under the radar because it's second fiddle to another game on our schedule that is probably our hypest and most exciting game of the year. We'll get to that in a second. But I want to talk a little bit about the Georgia Tech game because I think it's under the radar, like I said, because it's in the shadow of a different event. But it's homecoming. It's I'm pretty sure it's going to end up being maroon out as homecoming typically is. It's a team against a team that's on the rise in a very similar fashion as us. Brand new head coach, also named Brent, third season. They've made some really big gains in the last season. They're pretty similarly trajected to be similar to where we are in the standings. I am a little bit afraid that that's going to be a game with it's going to have some hype, and it's almost going to be our first test in Blacksburg where it's like, is this team legit to contend while the spotlights are on them? I have a feeling that game will probably be for pretty big stakes in the ACC. Georgia Tech has a fairly easy schedule, not as easy as ours should be, but it's almost like the lights will be on us. I have a feeling it's going to be like a 4 o'clock, 6 o'clock type game, maybe an 8. That's just my opinion. I think Rutgers is a little bit sketchy too, but I don't want to talk about that because I think that will get hit on in a second. So,
That Georgia Tech game, I think that's one game we'll really see how our run defense has improved. Because I don't remember who he is, but I think Georgia Tech has a dog at running back. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But that's one game where if our defense doesn't lock in, they can definitely surprise us.
You also got to remember we suck against ginger quarterbacks apparently, and that Haynes King guy, he's a little bit mobile. He kind of cooked us when he was he's just starting against us in 2020. I don't know if it was 22 or 21. Nonetheless, Haynes King's pretty good. It's like what's the Brennan Armstrong, ginger quarterbacks that run. I'm tired of it, but yeah, you're right. If the defense doesn't lock in, it could be a trouble fest for us.
There's one more game that I kind of want to hit on. I'm not sure because of the unknowns of this team, but Syracuse potentially with Kyle McCord coming in from Ohio State. There's very, very much unknown about that team and what McCord will be able to do, and not to mention it's in Syracuse in the Carrier Dome. That place is always loud because what the hell else is there to do in Syracuse in November? I think it is when we go there, but what else is there to do up there that time of year? So I think that could potentially be a scary game.
I don't know if you guys remember in 2016 when we had Gerard and like Bucky Hodges and Isaiah and Cam, and the team was really good. The defense was stacked. The year we went to the ACC championship, we lost to Georgia Tech late in the season. We also lost to Syracuse late in the season, and they were just like mind-numbing losses where we should not have lost it at all. They were against two awful teams, but you go up to Syracuse, where it's kind of like it's like that Boston College effect. Colin's right. They have fans up there that are a little bit rabid because just like Buffalo fans in the NFL, there's really nothing else to do but root for your sports teams in the middle of BFE upstate New York. But it's an indoor venue, and like you see, sometimes teams just don't adapt to it, and it's kind of it's like an energy black hole where you come in flat. And if I were to rank my 3 scariest games, it has nothing to do with Clemson. It has nothing to do with Miami. It's Rutgers, it's Georgia Tech, it's Syracuse. It's sketchy because it's the game that you can see us potentially falling into that trap.
With this new defensive-minded coach that they have, along with Kyle McCord, that is a team that could make some waves and we always suck at Syracuse at football. So I'm glad you hit that one. The Rutgers one, I feel like, is one that people are going to overlook because it's Rutgers. It's not exciting. It's not the Clemson. It's not UVA. It's some ugly school up in Jersey. But they whooped us last year. They ran all over us. Their running back's good. Their quarterback's a dual threat guy. Pretty sure. That is a game where students have to show up to, and we have to have the energy, kind of like Georgia Tech. They can hit us in the face real quick, and next thing you know, we're down 14. So I think that one, for a home game, that one is one that we really have to lock into. And then another one, I don't fully understand the hype behind this team, but situation wise, I guess we do, looking at the schedule. We have a week off after Clemson. But that Duke game, it's kind of same point as Stanford, a game right after a very big one. And they're also a team that we don't know much about. You got Manny Diaz coming in to coach. He sucked at Miami, but he brought culture, somewhat. And they have the old Texas quarterback there. So that's one that, coming off a potential big win, potential heartbreak loss, never know. That's a game you have to recuperate, and go kick butt at a very small school that we can take over their stadium.
Not to mention we have Virginia the week after. So it's kind of like you get through Clemson. Let's say that goes well. We're in a good spot. People are like, oh, yeah, we got Duke. Let's look ahead to UVA. Let's look ahead to the Commonwealth Clash. Like, no, I'm so with that. So I'm gonna quick hit on your Rutgers thing because I was just thinking about it, looking at it. So I'm not sure if you guys have looked at like the PFF like defensive ratings for the teams that we play, but we start against like 133 and 136 in the country against passing defense. So against Vanderbilt and then ODU respectively. It's almost like a blessing. It's a blessing for us to have those two teams to start the season where we can get almost just kind of like get the jitters out with a team with a passing defense that allow us to kind of run what we need to run. They're tune-up games, a little bit scary still, I understand, but tune-up games. You go to Marshall, who has a little bit better defense. They're like 90, maybe 100, 110 or something like that. They're not much better, but they're there. And then you go to Rutgers, who has that Big Ten defense. It's almost like it's set up for us to come into that game and play well. But knowing Virginia Tech, we have the opener that's like a 4:00 game, so it's an afternoon game. And then we're gonna go to ODU, and I'm sure that's gonna be a night game in Norfolk. And I bet you we're gonna come back and play Rutgers at noon. Like, I mean,
it's family weekend that weekend. They have a tendency to put those games at those time slots, but I don't see them giving it anything earlier than 3. I mean, why are you going to stiff them with the noon game? I mean, I think they're going to fight to have that for 3 if they have any.
Yeah, well, they don't make the decisions.
No, I'm saying if there's anything they could do now, it's like I'm sure they'll push for at least 3. Like I don't think it'll be a night game.
Oh, I don't either. But I mean, especially with what's coming down the schedule, but I can't imagine it's not a noon game. It feels like a noon game. It seems just like Purdue. It's just what you thought it was going to be against Rutgers the first time. Granted, I think the ACC network or ESPN is going to have the rights to that game and not Fox this time around because we're the home team. But still, like, I mean, go look up week 4 on the schedule. I'm pretty sure there's big games that week. I'm pretty sure that's a pretty big non-conference week where teams are playing, conference plays starting in some leagues, and then you also have like big non-conference games. I don't know. It's sketchy in my opinion to have that as a noon game after, kind of leading into Miami the week after, putting up 90 against ODU the week before.
So going off that time point, Jackson, you mentioned that some of the games that week, that's when conference play starts for the SEC. So, I mean, non-conference game, UCLA, LSU, that's not going to be noon, most likely. But then you look into it, you have NC State, Clemson. That's a big one because NC State, since we don't play them,
Yeah, that's
we
the
didn't talk
game of
about
the
them at
week.
all.
That's going to be an 8 o'clock game.
That's going to
I'll
be a
put it
big
now.
one.
Grayson McCall versus Clemson. It's going to be an 8.
You also have Tennessee, Oklahoma. Big one right there for Oklahoma's first time SEC. And then you look into, you have Utah, OK State. That could be big. Baylor at Colorado. You know how ESPN and Colorado are. That's not going to be good. So, starting conference play, we're not going to get it over. We're not going to get a night game over some of those I just mentioned.
I also, things you didn't mention, talk about like the potential for this game to be on the ACC network. Georgia Tech, Louisville that day.
Yep.
That probably is that's one of your games that's going to be late. It's probably not going to be a night game over. Well, actually, I bet you Clemson, NC State, most likely gets pushed to national TV. If I were to have a guess, I don't know because the SEC is on ESPN this year too, so they're gonna pick those games, especially with the media deal. Anyways, you have NC State, Clemson, Georgia Tech, Louisville that day. Which one of those games is going to be on the ACC network regardless. I'm sure that's going to get the nightcap for them. Let's talk about potentially having a 4 o'clock or 3:30 game. Don't forget North Carolina versus JMU, which seems to be North Carolina. We don't know how good they're going to be without Drake May, but JMU, North Carolina, you've seen UNC struggle against App State. That's going to be a game that people are going to pay attention to, especially the people knowing who JMU is now, plus UNC, who's obviously the huge name in North Carolina. UVA plays Coastal Carolina. UVA sucks. But it's gonna be at 12 o'clock. I don't want it to be. I would much rather it be I hate getting up and I hate having to get Chick-fil-A for our tailgate food. But I can't imagine that it's not a noon. I want to take this conversation to our next part and talk because we're not gonna waste time on telling everybody what our game of the year is for most excited game. Let's talk about Clemson. Let's please talk about Clemson. Not only do we have so many people coming into town for that game, not only is it going to be the most exciting tailgate we've had for in years. It's almost like it's like Penn State. It's like the hype that you had Penn State in 2020. Can we talk about the potential that if Tech's schedule works out the way that it potentially could, and Clemson kind of takes care of business in Clemson fashion, that we could actually get game day on November 9th? Like that's
I'm
not
in the
too far
process
fetched,
of.
is it?
I'm looking up the
The only
games
the
for that
only
week.
the biggest one, Zach, that you're going to read is going to be Georgia Ole Miss. However, Georgia has a bunch of games headlined that are going to be pretty
They're
good
gonna
early in the
go to
season.
Jacksonville for
No,
the Florida Georgia game.
Florida.
So
So
I
also,
mean, you got to think about it, though. If they have the chance to go back, I mean, you've seen them say it multiple times before. They want to come back to Blacksburg. You just need a reason. What better reason if Tech TCB, which they will all the way up to week 9, and they'll be ranked. Let's see if they have all those wins by then. I mean, you could see them ranked like top 18, maybe top 15 against Clemson, who ESPN and all of them just love because of Dabo. So it's not crazy to say that they wouldn't just come here because we do it better.
some of the games that week that we are competing with: Alabama at LSU. You mentioned Georgia at Ole Miss. Oklahoma at Missouri. Very underrated. Missouri's going to be good. That's another
but
one.
Oklahoma's not.
No, most likely.
Oklahoma is going to be a lackluster team because they're not good enough to be in the SEC.
Yeah, you also have Washington at Penn State, which Penn State's they're always going to get their Ohio State, Michigan, whatever games, but a new team coming to the Big Ten. Like you have some big games that we're going to be competing with for game day. But like you said, if we take care of business, they love Blacksburg.
But see, that's
Why
the thing,
not?
though. Like you can use that argument for what games there are that week, but look at all of those. Like the SEC obviously is loaded this year with matchups, but there are so many more matchups with those schools you mentioned, like Georgia and Bama and such, before week 9. And I mean, how many good games were there that week when they went to JMU versus a 6 and what was it, like a 6 and whatever App State team? I
You're
mean,
right.
it's so
No,
to
no,
tell.
I agree with you.
So I mean,
It seems like College Game Day has in recent times, like the past 2 seasons, has gone to where they seem like they're going to get more eyes because it's different. If you there people are tired of going to Athens, going to Tuscaloosa, going to Baton Rouge, going to Knoxville, going to Norman, Oklahoma, and USC every week. It's people are tired of it. I think that a fair point for us to talk about is the fact that when we had College Game Day for women's basketball, we showed up and showed out in ways that they've never seen before. I feel like people like Blacksburg. People think Virginia Tech is a insane fan base. Reese Davis, who is the host of College Game Day, ranked Virginia Tech as his most favorite place to go for College Game Day. They haven't been back here since 2017. Ironically against Clemson, but even that was nuts. They say it was insane. I genuinely feel like we have a chance if things work out our way.
well, so the point I would bring to you about when it comes to game day and such is if Tech is, higher in the rankings and they are undefeated going into that week 9 matchup, where's Kyron Drones on your NFL draft boards? How many people want to see him on TV? I mean,
Hey,
this,
I was about to clown you for bringing up draft status when we're talking about College Game Day, but you made a really fair point, and so I'm going to take back my clowning. You're right. If people are wanting to see Kyron, if he's potentially a Heisman candidate, people are going to want to watch him. Although
If you're undefeated, he's going to be a Heisman
that doesn't
candidate.
necessarily guarantee game day, though. They could put us at an
No.
8 o'clock game.
Yeah.
no,
He'll
and
give us-
that's a fair point. But I mean, if the hype is real, I mean,
No, you're
Sandman,
you're
I
right.
mean,
It's
people want to see
it's
that.
a really fair correlation.
Also, doesn't Bama and LSU, don't they like always play at noon?
No, they typically play at night.
Do
Yeah,
they?
no, it's typically at
Yeah,
night.
well,
Nah,
well,
yeah.
well. It's typically
Feel
one
like
of those.
Joe Burrow-
It's typically one of those typical BS 3:30 SEC games where they typically
I feel
finish.
like
Like
Burrow-
it's
Yeah, it's usually that 3:30 SEC kickoff, and then it
Well, but
ends
that's
at
well,
night,
that's
unless it's a top 10 game. But LSU's not going to be that.
well, that's
Well,
just because
when Joe Burrow's year at LSU, the big year when they won the Natty, that was definitely a day game because I was in
It was a
Nashville.
Yeah, it
3:30 one because we
was.
came home from one of the Tech games.
But
and
I
turned
also
on.
feel like it was kind of early in the fall though, wasn't it? So it's like I think it was a 3:30 game and it ended at like 6:30. But it just still happened to be a little bit light outside because I know what you're talking about. So
Yeah, looking back, it definitely wasn't a noon.
and
game.
typically that 3:30 game is the it's the
SEC
prime
game.
time SEC spot.
Kickoff.
Like they don't they would rather have that game at 3:30 because that's when everybody's watching football on Saturday, not the
True.
8 o'clock game that goes to ESPN that gets your Big Ten, or I guess Big Ten really their big games at noon. So you know what I'm saying. So
That's what I was thinking of. Yeah,
I mean
was thinking
Alabama Tennessee 3 o'clock, Georgia Florida 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
I guess Georgia Florida's typically at 12, but you know what I'm saying.
I think I was tripping the Penn State. It's Penn State, Ohio State. That's always a noon game.
Well, it's big noon kickoff.
Yeah,
So they're always there. I mean, Ohio State, Michigan, always at noon.
yeah.
I mean, remember we were at the Marshall game and we're watching that thing during the game because they played at noon.
That's
Yeah.
right.
We're looking at Ohio from across the river.
Right across the river.
Okay, so we have a lot more content coming up here. We're obviously going to talk a lot more about Clemson and the rest of the schedule and the Hokies and football season coming down the road. A lot of stuff to talk about. We can't wait to break down games and give predictions and talk about what's coming up in Blacksburg. It won't be too long before we are all in Blacksburg, ready to tailgate, ready to go see some football. In the meantime, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're at like 66. We're getting there. I think we know more than 66 people. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on X/Twitter. Pay attention to our college football, our Exit Light college football series stuff. That stuff's fun. Ellis is over here talking gobble noises because he's 1-0, and Isaac, who's not going to talk, is 2-0, and me, Colin, and ZDG are currently winless. But
Stupid game.
I'm gonna beat Colin here in a couple days, or maybe tomorrow.
You lost
And
me night.
I didn't lose to you. That was the game. But go ahead and pay attention to it. The graphics are so much fun to make. We have a lot of fun in the Discord. I actually think I might put the Discord link up for everybody to like spectate, because there's nothing wrong with that. But pay attention. I hope you guys enjoy it as much as we enjoy playing and kind of running the thing. Keep an eye out for more episodes that are coming up shortly. In the meantime, we'll hopefully see some friends in Nashville. I know one friend we won't be seeing. And we cannot wait to hang out with everybody in Blacksburg coming up here shortly. Until then, we will see you next time.